So this episode of Restore Talks is entitled, What Are You Consuming? And I just want to let you know it is many layers, but I just have to share with you my former eating habits for you to kind of get a good understanding of how and how I'm going to get into this. So just understand that the way I grew up, I pretty much ate anything and everything that I wanted. If it tasted good, then I wanted more of it. And it was for me. And that's how my taste buds were wired. I just ate what I wanted to eat. Now, until I got good and grown and I joined this clean eating challenge, and it changed my life. It changed my life. And, and it's really interesting and kind of weird because how in my early 30s, I had this understanding of food. And then I went into the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and have more understanding. But I was in organized sports for 10 years, including, collegiate track. So how did I not know? But, my sport was not a income revenue sport. So we didn't have a nutritionist. And so if you came in with certain knowledge, great. And if you happen to gain some along the way, great. But it wasn't anything where there was a nutritionist speaking to us intentionally. So certain habits I carried to college, and I still did it. So I remember this one time where I got on the bus. We were going to Big East. So this one, Big East, was in Syracuse. And my teammate Julie was just looking at me with I don't know what her thought was, but it definitely was like, she said, "You're eating that?" And I had a cheeseburger, decked out, fries. I was ready to go. We were on our way to Syracuse from New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I wanted me this particular meal. I got it from College Ave, and I'm ready to go. Now, I didn't understand that at that time Julie was on her level, was on her way for excellence. Like, Julie became an Olympic runner, but I didn't understand that what she knew and what she did was basically operating in excellence. This is the shift she was making from good to great. And I wasn't there at the time. I wanted to eat what I wanted to eat. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I definitely was doing that. But she understood something that I started to understand later when it came to life and not just sports, that if you want to be excellent, you want to maximize your potential, you have to move differently, right? In order to move differently, you have to have certain information and knowledge. So I remember that crystal clear because I remember that I did decently, but I wasn't like amazing. And I was complacent. So that is kind of a theme, like just operating in complacency or operating at levels that are actually not acceptable. And that's just because of what I knew. So I ate how I ate because I didn't know any better. And I want you guys to consider, now that is what I did. That's because that's how I was. But did you know that every minute of the day, there are millions of dollars pumped into advertisement for food-like products? And that's a problem. So we have this desire a lot of times to eat what we eat and to consume what we consume because it's constantly in our face. I want you to follow me because I'm going to make a transition here. So we're constantly having a desire to eat what we want to eat because it's marketed. And to be honest with you, the food-like products are addicting. So food addiction is real. So you have this food addiction with chemicals and additives for flavor and additives to help preserve it. But I'm talking about like lots of additives and it's not fit for human consumption. Another thing is these chemicals, for example, they really do throw off the natural function of our body systems. Like, for example, the endocrine system gets negatively impacted by all these toxins, for example. So similarly, in other aspects of life, when we're constantly bombarded by pictures and images and video and music and conversation that is not healthy, we have to be able to not only check it, but we have to be aware of that it's unhealthy. Is that we're bombarded in life, we're bombarded with these images and music and film and television. And if you don't understand that these things are woefully inaccurate, you're going to take them on as truth. And so there's lots of stereotypes all around us. And what are stereotypes? Are marketed falsehoods for the benefit of a few. All right. So it doesn't benefit you or doesn't benefit me to believe in stereotypes of our neighbors. It just doesn't. It's fruitless. So how do you figure out what's toxic? How do you figure out what's unhealthy? Well, let me just stop and say that we have to all pay attention to what we're eating, but what we're seeing and what we're hearing. And obviously, there's a lot of people who talk about food, but my specialty is, yes, I can talk about food and I can talk about nutrition, but the bigger parts of nutrition of what are we consuming? What are we eating? By what are we seeing? And what are we listening to? And what conversations are we engrossed with? That is something that I'm really been passionate about, and I'm really careful about. I'm careful with my boundaries, with people and things and places that really don't honor me and don't honor the humanity of others. So we have to basically, be careful about what we see and what we hear. And you have to guard yourself. You have to guard your gifts. Now, how are you going to be careful when you're bombarded with all these images and you really don't know what's real and what's not? Honestly, get to talk to lots of different people. Just have conversation with people. Be open to hear and learn, especially people who are completely different than you. The way the society is, right? We're grouped in schools that are in our own social economics, grouping. Get out of that. When we're in college, I was guilty of it. Well, to some degree, because I actually mixed and mingled. But I didn't realize that college was a tool for me to, it's a too big tool, and I didn't look at it in the fullness of it, but I will be able to tell my own children, and I've been telling my students how to work that, right? Now, back on to how do you pay attention to what you see and what you hear? How do you investigate carefully what is not healthy? Couple things. One, let's get the food thing over real quick. Processed foods versus plant-based foods. Look, you want to go towards the plant-based foods. Even if you're a meat eater, right? It's all about high quality and what the animals are eating on and how they're raised. If you want more, go to champrestoration.com on the blog section. Go click on the blog section and go all the way to the bottom. There is a cardiologist who specializes in plant-based eating. You can hear a lot more from him about that. That's that. There's a lot of people talking about that, but I want to get into imagery and how do you protect what you're seeing. Like I said what I believe stereotypes are, and it's pervasive, and it's tied into anything you watch, anything you hear. So randomly, I want to tell you, I want you to look at Bamboozled. Is a great film. It's a Spike Lee film. It's one of my favorites, but it really, it is very, it's so well done. It's a satire. It's so well done. And that can lead to more conversation. Anytime you go to a museum, right? Whether it's the African American Museum in DC or it's the Jewish Museum in Lower Manhattan, you get to see something that is consistent, which is the weaponry of images, the weaponry of, engineering the minds of people, especially young people. So it is no coincidence that there are music that's, definitely not speaking truth to who people are and their humanity. It's just the worst, a lot of the lyrics, to be honest with you. And it's no mystery that beats are amazing. Beats are amazing paired with some trash lyrics. So I need you to, even if, and it's usually the most popular culture stuff. So examine the lyrics of what you're listening to, right? That's another thing you can do, is to examine the lyrics. And you know when it hits your soul, when people are saying something, when it is not right and it is not building you and edifying you. Cut that out. Do something with health coaches. What we do, wellness coaches, what we do is we do something called crowding, or I do, called crowding in. And so you find new forms of, in this case, music lyrics that are just going to build you up and that sound amazing because the lyrics, first and foremost, are amazing. You want to get healthier things in so that the unhealthy, can like go to the wayside, because now you've got some new things. Try that with everything, with food included. So that's one thing. Conversations, I would say to have boundaries. But one of the biggest things I want to talk about is the Amy Coopers of the world. Women, I'm in education, so I'm around lots of women and lots of non-Black women who are serving. And we obviously is a very diverse population in general, outside of certain districts. It's very diverse, very immigrant rich, right? And so the other is not really the other, it's the majority. And so you have a lot of white women who are teachers and who may not understand, right, the ethnicity and the culture of the students. And so why am I talking about that in regards to Amy Coopers? Because I've seen that virus of being able to turn on tears or a voice, a very concerned voice, and it's doing that when maybe they don't understand what's happening, or they understand what's happening and they just want to use it for their own benefit. And I say to say, how did Amy Cooper get to be how she is, right? She didn't just get born like that. She was conditioned to be able to weaponize tears, to weaponize the phrase African American male, I'm scared, right? That is not something that is natural. You're not, in the presence of a Black man and just you feel, you feel for you're fearing for yourself. That is something that's conditioned. And the voice, her tone changed because she knew how to work it and wield it. Now, why am I talking about this? Remember, the conversation is, what are you consuming? There's a reason that the Amy Coopers got to that point. And I really don't want my neighbors, my college buddies, or anybody in the future to raise children to be like Amy Cooper, to just be able to, at a moment's notice, call the police over something silly, and say things like, I'm afraid for my life, when you could walk away, and is African American male. I just want you to understand that there is, a way to raise children to be aware of what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And it takes constant introspection of yourself and constant self-examination of what you're seeing by way of TV, film, books, questioning why you don't see diversity, questioning to see why the same stories being told with the same looking characters. There's a broad, wide world out here. And in terms of raising children who are aware and who have sensitivity, that there are other points of views, we want to make sure that even the books that they're reading have multiple points of views. The history books, one might say African American history, but it's really American history and world history. So please, do yourself a favor and get different points of views. Check the point of view that's constantly entering your home and balance it out with alternative perspectives. And I'll say, what are you consuming? Make sure you're consuming a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle by way of what we just talked about. And so if you have any questions, if you have any comments, I'd like to hear it. And take good care and eat well.